Good evening, everyone, world, friends, followers, people who are just dropping by
Yeah.
to see what's going on, and everybody in between. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks.
Hello there, my name is James Maynard, otherwise known as Sweet Baby James, and you've come to Lighting the Way, Granny Raps and Rocks. So take it away, Granny, and if you want to chat with us, please put it in there, and Beth can respond to you.
I love it when you come live and we can actually talk live. You know, you chat and I respond. But I also love it when you respond later. So this is Lighting the Way, Granny Raps and Rocks. And the idea of this program is that I do commentary on us, the human condition, how we're doing, how we're not doing, and I try to help. And I play the piano at the same time because it's to just accentuate, to punctuate, to express what I'm feeling when I'm talking. And hopefully to engage you more as well. So look, we have some people already.
Look here, Todd is here and says, hi there, you too, and sends hearts of love, musical notes, and affection.
Hello, Todd. So
Thank you,
great to
Todd.
see you. I love it when you come live.
Blanquita says, hello, Beth and James, and sends a couple of hearts of love. Thank you.
Hello there. Hola, Blanquita. Bienvenidas.
And Karen says, good evening, you two, and sends hearts of love and friendship.
Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate it. So tonight, I'm going to talk about decision making, where it comes from, and what's the best way for us to be able to make decisions. And this is a follow-up on a show that we did last week, where I actually started talking about guidance. And, you know, some people think of guidance as just your guidance officer, or your parents guide you, or higher guidance like God guides you, or however you interpret that. But what I was talking about last time is that we are all guided all the time, but the question is, what are we guided by? For example, we are often guided by our emotions of fear, or we're trying to follow the crowd, or we're trying to please somebody. There's a million things that can guide us.
Ambition.
Desire, ambition. Where is that all coming from? Pressure from the outside. So those are some of the things that we covered. And I talked about we can be guided by higher conscious. And I'm going to talk about higher consciousness tonight too. But I'm going to
By the way,
explain it.
We have another comment.
Yes. Could you hold that 1 second? Thank you.
Okay.
Because I want to tell you that I want to really expand on what I think should guide us as I was guided. So,
Yes, okay. Amy says, hi, Beth and James. I'm so glad you're going to be talking about this topic, and sends 3 hearts of love.
oh, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, thank
Thank you.
you,
Thank
thank you.
you. That's right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 3 hearts. Yes.
And Catalina says, good evening.
Good
and sends a heart
evening.
of love and musical notes. And
Good
Radiant
evening,
star of light.
Oh, love it. Thank you. Good evening, Catalina. So, we don't want to just be dominated by fear or public opinion or the club we're in or what we decided yesterday that really isn't right for us. You know, I'm assuming that a lot of us actually want to do what we would call the right thing. Now, that could be not get ourselves in trouble. Should I buy that house, yes or no? Well, the right thing is don't buy the house you can't afford. Don't buy the house that's going to turn into a bottomless pit. Don't buy the house in the wrong neighborhood. Don't buy the house for the wrong reasons. So that's one way of looking at the right thing, right? It's like what is right for us personally. And since most of us are pretty self-centered, that's what we mostly think about. But there's also a sense for a lot of people that we want to do the right thing, like the just thing, the kind thing, the most enlightened thing. And I would like to talk about that too.
And Blanquita is giving us a big heart of love.
Abrazos, Blanquita. So,
Would you translate that for us?
oh, hugs,
Oh, very good.
Blanquita. Yeah, thank you. So, I want to tell you, see, I founded a spiritual organization that became a nonprofit, and it's called The Stream, and I founded it in 1983. That's 83. Yes, there were people who were alive and thinking in 1983. And I want to tell you some of the things that I learned. Now, I am intuitively guided. See, that's a whole thing. And people want to know how to be intuitively guided or spiritually guided. And I am going to talk about that tonight. But there's other forms of guidance that I want to talk about too. And so I want to tell you what I learned when I was, and we still have The Stream, by the way. We're a nonprofit spiritual organization with some unusual beliefs, very non-dogmatic, you know what I mean? We're always looking for what is going to support the evolution of everyone and for everyone's benefit. So the first kind of guidance that I'm going to mention, see, the universe or God or whatever you want to call that inner voice that I have in abundance told me that I should be guided, my decisions, all of them, should be guided by observation, experience, intuition, and common sense. Now, sometimes those don't agree, and that is a kind of a tough thing, and I'm going to talk about all that tonight. So we have a lot to talk about. And by the way, I would like to first make a comment that honestly, most of us are guided by our feelings. Whether that feeling is fear or optimism or hope or denial. It's like, oh, I'm going to marry this guy even though I know that he's a raging alcoholic and is not willing to take a look at his issues. Well, because love will conquer all. Well, maybe love doesn't conquer all. So, sometimes we can be in denial, and that's what's guiding us, or optimistic, or we're inexperienced and we don't realize how tough it is to deal with addictions and so on. So there's a lot of...
Mohammed has come here and says, how are you both, sir, madam?
We're both well, and
Very well, thank you.
we're really digging into this topic. So I want to I won't talk about intuition first. Although intuition is probably what I mostly am guided by, and that's because I'm spiritually oriented, but I'm going to talk about the others. So let's talk about experience. It is important to look at experience. Somebody said that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And that is really true. If every time you cook the food, you put it on a high flame and it's tough and burnt, that's experience. And don't you think you should let yourself notice, gee, that didn't work, unless you happen to like tough and burnt, right? So experience is valuable, but experience without thought is devastating, because I have had an experience, let's say as a child, I was molested. And now, because of that experience and some other bad experiences, I am afraid of men. Well, that's a bad use of experience. That's letting one experience or even a series of them get in the way of really looking clearly at situations. So you see how it's not so easy. We have to really look at this. Or another thing we can do that's difficult, that has to do with the experience, is we don't really know what we're experiencing. For example, let's say I moved into a new house and I suddenly got sick in that house. So I'm thinking, what is happening in this house that's making me sick? and then I'm going to be looking at, because my experience is that every time I get into that house, I'm sick. Well, maybe it is something in the house. Maybe it's not in the house at all. Maybe it's in the furniture. Did you get more furniture? Is it outgassing? Or maybe it's how you feel because you now have a mortgage payment that you can't afford, and you're feeling sick because you're full of fear now. Or maybe it's a neighbor who's got smoke coming out of, the stove. And so now you're saying, I'm sick, but maybe you got sick from the smoke of the neighbor and not from the house. So you see how tricky these things are. You are experiencing something, but what is the cause of that experience? So let's say as a child you were molested, which happens to many, amazingly many children. But supposing you liked it because you needed attention or affection, or the person was really sweet to you or whatever. So now you tell yourself that I'm angry, this is terrible, men are awful, but actually we are feeling guilty because we think we shouldn't like it, and we did. Okay, that is taking an experience and assuming a lot of things, and I see this all the time. It could be our judgment about what's happened to us. Maybe that is a bigger issue than the experience itself. What is our judgment? Or how did my mother react when I told her? And that is going to, oh my God, this is terrible, or the teacher didn't give me an A. Oh, that's terrible. So now, is the problem that the teacher didn't give you an A, or is it a problem that your mother says, oh, that's terrible, and you think you're going to die? So do you see what I'm saying about experience? It is very complicated. Now I've only gone through one experience. Oh my God. Okay, let's take a look at observation. Okay. Well, how good is our observation? As we all know from having seen so many crime shows, everybody disagrees about what they observed in a moment of stress. Or your eyesight isn't very good, or you're already prejudiced in a certain way. Oh, I saw him coming and he looked mean. Maybe he looked black. And so we're scared, and so we think we're going by our observation. But maybe we're not. Now I want to tell you something about observation that is extremely important. See, one of the things that we need to learn is how to be guided by reality. And we need observation, because what is the reality that we're seeing? Now, I'm going to come back to that in a minute as I talk about intuition, okay? So hold on to your seat, because I have a lot more to say on this topic. Okay, now, what was the third one? I talked about experience, common sense. Okay, guys, there is something to be said about common sense. Come on. I mean, that's very much connected to experience. If you are mean to someone over and over and over and over and over and make them feel bad, what does common sense tell you that their reaction is going to be?
Negative.
Negativo. That's common sense. Yet we can have all kinds of reasons that we give for why their reaction is negative. That has nothing to do with the common sense reason, which is we are being mean to them. Right?
Right.
I hate to tell you how little common sense most of us actually have. And especially in our world today, everything is so distorted for partisan reasons that you hardly ever hear anything that is just calm, that is objective, and that is common sense. People will
Alternative facts are very popular.
Exactly. People believe the most outrageous things on everywhere, right? And that defy common sense. Okay, here's an example. This is funny. Okay, my glasses are missing. I know why. Martians came. And they took my glasses and hid them from me. Now, that doesn't sound a lot like common sense. Okay, now, the moment you've all been waiting for. How are we guided by intuition? Now, some people say, I wish I had it. You know, I wish somebody was talking to me. So, how do we access intuition? Many, many ways. Ways that we don't expect. For some of us, it's just a voice that speaks to us. And I have a voice that has been speaking to me nonstop since 1980, 43 years. Okay. And I have worked with this voice, and I kind of trust it. However, if this flies completely in the face of common sense, I have to think about it. Oh my God, I have to think. So I'm going to give you an example. I went to buy a house, and this was, I can't remember which house this was, but it was a long time ago. It was Streamhaven 2. And I didn't have a way of proving enough income to buy that house. So they used to have something called the stated income loan. You would say this was if you're self-employed, you write down what your income was. They didn't have them anymore. So there was no more, I couldn't get the loan. There was no more stated income loans. The house was too expensive. Blah. Everything said, no, you're not going to get that. No, no, no. And everybody said that to me. I mean, people who were in the mortgage business said, no, there's no. And of course, I didn't have the cash. In fact, I had to borrow the down payment, but don't tell anybody that I had to borrow every penny. Now, that isn't common sense either. But the inner voice said, go for it, try. This is really important. And it was an incredibly, it was a large house with beautiful grounds. It was a spiritual oasis in the world. Looks like we have one more.
Muhammad says, the older you grow, the more you get aware about things.
Exactly.
Isn't so,
That is true, unless you become more and more opinionated and stupider as you age, which is also a possibility, right, Muhammad? So I didn't listen to anybody. I said there is, because I heard the inner voice said, you're going to buy this house. You're going to buy this house. And it seemed, it was so impossible. It was unreal. I hadn't sold my house. I didn't have the down payment, and there were no mortgages that I could qualify for. You're going to buy the house was what the inner voice said. And so because I heard that, I kept looking. I didn't take no, see, that's not going to happen. I didn't take popular opinion or anybody's opinion. I listened to my inner voice, and I kept looking. And guess what? I found a loan. And I found people who would help me with the down payment. Anyway, it all worked out, and I bought the house.
And the loan was from overseas.
Overseas. Absolutely. Very overseas. Over the rainbow. And I lived in that house for many years and had many, many groups there. So there's an example of where I actually overruled common sense and experience and observation and everybody else's opinion because I had this strong feeling that I should do this. Now, if I have a very strong feeling that I should do it, I'm going to do it, honestly. If it's very strong. But it doesn't mean that I won't examine it and ask myself, where is that coming from? Am I in my ego? Am I trying to prove something? Or am I in fear? Or there's reasons that I could have that inner voice. See, a lot of us have fear that's running us, or opinions, and we think that's an inner voice, but it actually isn't. It's our fear. It's our opinions. So we have to do a lot of self-examination, and we have to be very honest with ourselves. Could this be my fear? Could it be my husband's fear? I'm so intuitive, I pick up his feelings. You know, you think that being intuitive means that you're always going to do the right thing, but actually being intuitive, you might pick up other people's opinions, and they're saying, no. If I listened to everybody who said no, that I couldn't do something, I would never have done all the things I've done in life.
So it sounds like you need to release all prejudices and preconceived ideas and be neutral.
Absolutely. I have to be absolutely neutral. And Now, I'm going to tell you more about this. So, if you don't have the inner voice, well, what do? Well, there's a lot of ways to access that consciousness. Now, last time I explained, and I don't have time to explain it again in depth today, but that higher consciousness really just means a more comprehensive view of things. Now, sometimes that comprehensive view of things is full of opinions and experience that's really prejudicing you, because you think, oh, your parent knows because they've seen the world, but no, they've seen the world through their eyes, and so they may not know either. But what we try to do when we go into higher consciousness is we try to get less and less attached, as James is talking about, and become more and more open to looking at the big picture. Now we have a tool for that.
Now here's another comment.
Yes.
Muhammad says, who is inside us to give us a voice? Is it buried deep into our subconscious, madam?
I just lost my...
Oh, here, take this.
Okay, please get that. Okay, so very good question, and I'll answer as much as I can in the next few minutes. You could say, okay, I think this is working again. Yay! Thank you, James. That it's a who. Some people think it's God, or some masters, or saints, or it's your grandfather who died 30 years ago who's there as your guide. So people can call it anything, but what I'm saying is that it isn't a who, no matter what you call it. It's a level of consciousness. I may say, oh, I'm getting guidance from Lord Kuthumi, and actually, I'm not getting guidance from Lord Kuthumi. I am getting, but like that's a person talking to me. It's a level of consciousness that I am trying to reach. So each one of us can only at different times reach a certain level of consciousness that we have enough perspective or enough neutrality. The example that I think I gave last time is there is the eagle's consciousness that sees a big amount. And then there's the mouse, right? Or the ant. That's very, very local. And we need to combine the wisdom of the eagle that sees the big picture with the wisdom of the ant who says, wait a minute, I'm hitting a block here. What are we supposed to do? So it's really about what level of consciousness you can reach. And you can call it anything you want. But you don't have to have a spiritual belief system or a religious belief system to know that there is that inner voice. Now, I want to talk about people. I know I'm going fast again, but there's so much to cover in this topic, right? I want to talk about people who don't have that inner voice at all. So there's two ways, there's more than two ways that we can access that information. For instance, James has a process of he uses the body pendulum. He stands there and he says, give me a yes. And if he goes forward, he knows he's in tune. And when he says, give me a no, he goes backward. You just relax and you're amazed. The body will do that. Or you can do it sometimes with your fingers. So you just stand there. And you can listen to this part again, right? So I can move quickly. You can just stand there, relax, ask the question, and see whether your body goes back or forth. Now, if you say, give me a yes, and you go backwards, that means you're blocked. You're not able to access that information. So then you have to talk about what may be going on in you that is blocking you from actually noticing, identifying, and realizing what's going on. You can't access higher consciousness if you have an opinion, if you're listening to fear and all of that. That will get in the way. Now, we have another process in the stream which is called checking in, and that is asking the question, what is for the highest good of all, including me? See, a lot of us believe that if we're spiritually oriented, we have to sacrifice ourselves for others. But actually, we are looking for the highest good, which isn't necessarily what we want or our selfish, ego-based good, but what is really going to promote our evolution and the evolution of everyone. So if you and your husband, for example, or your girlfriend or your child are arguing, oh, I want green paint, I want blue paint, you can check in and say, is it for the highest good of all, including me, to have blue paint? And you may get something you don't want to hear. But if you're tuned up, you may hear. Now, what we have done, and all of this is described in detail in a book called Living with Reality, which is on our healingartsnetwork.org website, and the link is in the post. Now, in that book, we're asking, I have all these tools in there that teach you how to use this, how to do this. Muhammad, go to my website, healingartsnetwork.org, and download this book. It's free of charge. This is about learning how, that's one of the many things. This is a 688-page book full of wisdom, knowledge, and tools that we all need in order to lead a better life, one that is for everyone's benefit. So we can use the body pendulum to check in, or we may be able to have that inner voice. Now, please go and check that out. What is for the highest good of all, including me? And it has to include me because I am part of the whole. This is not about separating like, oh, I'm the sacrificer, I'm the spiritual one, and I'll do this for you, because that's based on ego and separation. And my God, I'm running out of time. So let me just give that last piece to you for tonight. Sometimes the universe is speaking to you in signs, and you may not have the ability to tune into the inner voice or even to use the body pendulum. But look at what is happening. For example, you may want to believe one thing, but let's say you want to believe that your child is doing great, but the child is coming home depressed, or is rebelling, or is having temper tantrums, or is crying or something. Well, you use your observation. What is your observation telling you? Not what you want to hear. If you really observe reality, you will see that we have had lately the most amazing things happening to us, and they're all signs. Try this. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to work out the way we want to, but try this and try this and try this. For instance, we were wondering yesterday whether or not we should go ahead with a project that was very expensive, and it wasn't going to happen for a month. And it was like, oh God, I really need this now if I'm going to do it. And then the guy calls us up and says, how about if I come tomorrow and I do this project for you? And so that we took that as a sign. So you see what I mean about observation. Look at what is happening. Look at what is coming to you. Open your mind to your own inner being, to what other people say. Somebody may say something to you that just completely shifts your perspective of something. And if you're observing and listening, you will be impacted by it. It looks like we have another.
From your answering, this is from Muhammad.
Yeah.
From your answering our questions, it can be imagined you are as if a psychology or philosophy professor now.
Actually, I am not either. I did not study psychology, even though I am a counselor, and I did not study philosophy. I studied history, even though I'm a spiritual teacher. And I did not study spirituality because when I got the inner voice, it said, don't read anything, don't study with anybody, just be a blank slate that I can write on, which is this higher consciousness. But I am an intuitively guided counselor with over 40 years of experience working with people based on what I've observed, based on the inner guidance that I've had and what I've just learned through my life. So anyway, that's just kind of the way it is. So it looks like we're really at the end of our time. If you liked this program, please follow our page. Please
like or love the show.
Yes, like or love the show. Please share it with other people. We want to help as many people as we possibly can. And your sharing helps people to know.
Oh, and we have a comment from Victoria. I didn't know you lived overseas. Oh, I like the what is for the highest good of all, including me. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful.
James, can you shut that up? I did not live overseas. I just visited overseas. I think I was making a joke. But it is wonderful to see you, Victoria. Vicky is a person that I knew way back when, and we were roommates in Brooklyn. So it's just delightful to see you. So anyway, like the show, love the show. Come back next week, and tomorrow. And this, remember, every Wednesday night at 6:30 Pacific time, and on Thursday nights, which is tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific time, we do magical improvs where I play the piano, James sings, and we do all of that improvisationally, guided by the source. So I'm sure that you have lots of questions. If you want to revisit any of this, write some questions in the chat. I'll try to answer, or I'll try to come back and talk about that in another
Victoria's
show.
asking, how do I share or like the show?
Oh, well, you should have on Facebook. There should be.
There's a bar. If you tap your screen at the bottom, it'll show you choices. Thumbs up is like. The heart is love. And then there are other kind of responses.
Right, and also under it, usually there's the word share. And you click on share, and then you can share it to your own page or some other page. So I love that.
Victoria sends a heart of love.
Thank you.
And Muhammad says, I watch your show with deep interest, although I cannot understand your language in a befitting manner, madam.
Well, you understand well enough. We have got to go because we have a group that is meeting right now.
So bye-bye for now.
Love you
Thanks
all.
for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.